For great ideas and practical tools you can start using tomorrow to grow your business and separate you from the competition, you've come to the right place. If you're into B2B marketing and sales, then welcome to the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales podcast. With over 60 and counting total years in the trenches of businesses small and large, they have a plethora of knowledge and experience that generate you more leads, capture more clients, ring up more sales. Well, doggone it, just make you more money. How about that? Always thought-provoking, yet dubiously entertaining. Please welcome to their respective microphones across 3 time zones, your co-ringmasters, the Dave Loomis, and not the rock star, Steve Miller.
Hey everybody, welcome to the B2B Marketing and Sales podcast. You know, a couple of old guys here who've been around for a while in the B2B world. And I just totally guessed that we have like 60 plus years. I don't know. I've got like 35 plus years. Actually, what am I thinking? No, it's more than that.
Yeah,
I've probably got like 45 years. So you need to tell me how much yours is. How many years?
It's not quite 40. It's 36. I think that would be.
So between us, we've probably got almost 80 years of experience.
Almost 80 years.
Yeah. And I don't know about you. I'm sure that you have all of your experience has been completely, totally 100% successful. I, on the other hand, have had super highs and super lows. And, I've had great successes and I've had great killer failures. And in fact, that ought to be something we should talk about some days.
We should. Let's talk about failures.
Yeah,
so that's a good one.
So for those of you who don't know, since I'm just yakking away here, I am the not the rock star, Steve Miller. Thank you very much for joining us. And joining me is
the Dave Loomis.
The Dave Loomis. And we are both just killer marketers. I'll tell you what, this is shameless self-promotion is what this is all about. And but our objective is to always share with you great ideas and tips and stuff that's working and stuff that you can take and go make more money with. That's the objective, right?
Of course, and serve people.
People. That reminds me of that Twilight Zone episode. To serve people. It turned out to be a cookbook, but if everybody remembers that one. So, the Dave Loomis, you said that you wanted to talk about H2H. Today. You want to talk about human to human, and considering the fact that we work in basically in the B2B world, I think sometimes companies and marketers tend to forget that. So you're the one who wanted to talk about this. So you kick it off here with the conversation, with the discussion about H2H.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks. So I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm going to be doing some writing on it as well. And have some thoughts. As you were saying that, I thought about it sounds a little bit like H2O at first, which is something that we all need. To my knowledge, there isn't anything called H2H, but from a chemical standpoint, what have you. But I think it does play an increasing role in B2B marketing and sales. And I'll explain. I think that in general, the pendulum has maybe swung in one direction too far, and we should all think about swinging it back a little bit. And here's my point. What I want to just kick us off with, and get your reaction, Steve, too, is I made a couple notes here: 3 myths and 3 corresponding realities. Okay, so I'll give you the 3 myths.
Okay.
The 3 myths that I wrote down were basically that all of the digital transformation things that we're hearing about, like AI, e-blasts, LinkedIn invites that are automatic, CRM, HubSpot, drip campaigns, all that stuff. All that stuff is a replacement for talking to people. That's myth 1. Myth 2 is that B2B decision making is made by a committee. So you don't really have to connect with an individual person, or even that is counterproductive. You need to sell a committee. And then myth number 3 is that B2B decision making is highly logical, if not 100% logical, as opposed to emotional. And therefore, that's what you got to concentrate on. Okay, I see your visual.
You know what? Those of you, those of you that are listening to the podcast, you are not seeing me just like stop myself from busting out laughing at.
Right.
Especially that last
exactly. So I'll let you comment in a second, but let me tell you my 3 corresponding realities, at least as I have been thinking about them.
Yeah. Please do.
So one is that it all 3 of them involve the word "and." So go back to the myths that I just said, and there's something in addition. Those are not untrue, but there's an "and." So digital transformation stuff, nobody's telling you not to do them. In fact, many of these things we need to do. And we need to connect to people, right? Second, we need to sell to committees. That's the reality of a lot of B2B sales and marketing, right? So there's going to be your procurement person. They may or may not be running an RFP or a process or something like that, but they're likely involved a lot of times, especially with bigger companies, and a team of people. So you have to sell to them, and you have to identify and then connect with the real decision maker / influencer. That is key, because that may make all the difference in the world in the end. And the third is you need to provide all the logical evidence that's required as part of the sale, because it could be a big ticket item. They're not going to make some, sort of knee-jerk decision on things, because it is a business. It's not like going to Home Depot, picking out a garden hose. On the other hand, we really have to also appeal to people. So don't not provide the logical stuff, but provide the hard stuff too, head and heart. When I taught business school, textbooks call this affect and cognition from a psychological standpoint, sociology standpoint. So heart and head, you got to be both, is what I'm saying. So that's what I'm thinking about. Human to human, it hasn't gone away.
No. Of course, I 100%. I wish I could go higher than 100%. I 100% agree with every statement that you've made right now, and especially, but the big one is that this is still people doing business with people, and more so than even B2C, where you're dealing, with consumers. More so, you need to have a personal connection, because in the B2B world, we are trying to create long-term relationships. Long-term relationships, number one, long-term relationships are not going to, they might, the customer might try to be as logical as possible in the beginning, which of course, and when you have a committee, or maybe not necessarily a committee, but certainly more and more today, I call them not just influencers, but if they have a role in the decision-making process. It might not be a committee, so to speak, but it might be different people who have a role. So for example, you might have the decision maker, the owner of a company, say, for example, and it's going to be a high ticket item. And so that person wants to be involved in the decision, because they're going to say thumbs up, thumbs down, ultimately, right? The second person might be the person who is actually writing the check, and who has responsibility for making sure, they got enough money to do this, right? And so that person is going to have a role in the decision-making process. Then you might have, say, a machinist or a technician, or the person who is going to be using the product, right? And so they would have a role in the decision-making process. And I've always said that in the B2B world, there are at least 3 decision makers. Those 3 are the primary ones that have. Now, there might be multiple technicians or multiple machinists or something, that are involved in this, but they all will have a role in the decision-making process. Now, together, they want to collect information that is as logical as possible. Because for the most part, people do want to make a logical decision. But ultimately, people are still doing business with people. And even if it's just inside, like you say, there's heart and there's head. And so the heart part, even if it's subconscious, it might be that they say something like, maybe you got two companies who are two suppliers who are very close. When they add up all the numbers and add up all the the pluses and minuses and everything like that, they're both very, very close. And then ultimately, what you typically the type of typical conversation becomes is it becomes like, well, what do you think of Dave? Dave is the one who's going to be our contact. Do we think we can trust Dave? Do we think that Dave is going to be there when we need him? Do we think is Dave the kind of person that we want to work with? Okay, and that human to human becomes much, much more important. I do not disagree. Also, on all the automated stuff, right? The AIs and yes, definitely. We want to use that stuff as much as possible. But ultimately, we are still in the human race.
Yes,
okay? We're still in the human race,
yes,
and we are still going to want to work with people as much as possible. And I've personally found over the years, and having done this for so long, and I'm sure you found this too, Dave, is that there would sometimes be companies who would say, hey, we're looking to get some consulting done or something like that, and we would like you to submit an RFQ, right? And I said, well, why would I do that? Why would I submit that? Because they said, well, that's what we need and that's what we require, and we ask everybody to do that. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to put everybody on this kind of same level playing field,
right?
And I am
let's do this, right?
Yeah, mm-hmm. I'm completely uninterested in a level playing field. I totally want the playing field to be tilted in my favor, and so I refuse to do that stuff because I say, hey, look, no, this is Steve, and even if it's something as simple as a consulting assignment, Steve is still the one who's going to be delivering. It's still going to be connected. So who I am has to play an important role.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. As usual, we say one of us talks for a while and then the other one says, wow, that agree with that, and adds more to it. So out there, you're not going to see a lot of arguing, at least on this episode, between Steve and me. I've got kind of a little mini case study that popped in my mind when you were talking, and it's pretty amazing. I actually ran an RFP for a big a multi-billion-dollar company for a couple $1 million project that was kind of an IT services type thing, and one of the things that happened in this process was, as you can expect, huge team of people that were involved in the decision, and massive spreadsheet that had probably 15, 20 different comparison factors on that, multiple vendors, all scored on all these things, okay? Eliminated 8. Down to 4. I mean, the work, the time, the effort, the meetings, massive. Just the process that we're talking about that seems sort of impersonal, right? Then we talked to references and added those things in. Then in the end, after all of that work and all those months, 2 of them pretty much on the fence. And then it came down to, so how do we feel about working with so-and-so? Do you trust so-and-so or do you trust so-and-so? And I'll admit that in the case that I'm talking about, I'm not sure everybody had the same gut instinct, and it was very interesting about the back and forth. And so even after all the attempt to make it all about head and cognition, in the end, I think it did come down to heart, and that's what tipped the scale, which was, do I trust this one person or firm, and how do I feel about them? And I just want to add one more thing, because maybe somebody's listening and says, well, that's all good, but how do I actually do that? How do I break through it? I can't refuse an RFP, or I have to go through the motions, or what have you. My recommendation would be, from the very first moment you make contact with people, with whoever you're going to be working with, make an extra effort to, before doing anything, connect with the person as a person. And so, before you literally start talking business, find out, well, where are you based? Where are you located? Figure out a way to ask about their family or their hobbies or something else, or something in the background of their Zoom, or, just something, so that you can connect. And when you do see them again and connect with them, ask about that. Even if it's the weather, that's something that starts a conversation, and it's not business. And people, if somebody is going to enjoy talking to you, that's a really good thing. So make it enjoyable to have a conversation with you. And that just helps.
I think that that's really great advice. That if you have to do our RFPs, RFQs, whatever your world is, the terms that you use, then I would certainly say, as early as possible, get the H to H going. Get that going as early as possible. Now, something that can be used and I think that this is where the H2H becomes extremely important, is because is where referrals are. When referrals come into the equation, when somebody calls one of your referrals, they'll say something like, "Oh yeah, I trust. Yeah, those guys are great, man. Everything's on time." But I'll tell you what, Leslie. And you and I are referring back,
yes.
the callback, right?
Exactly.
But you know what? Leslie is amazing. Okay.
Yes.
The referrals I would bet that if it's not 100% of the time, I would say it's pretty high percentage, that most of the time that a referral is talking about you, they're talking about the person-to-person contact. They're talking about the trust. And that'll be the big one. They'll be talking about the trust factor that they have with you. That's what a referral is really all about. They're just simply saying that you're awesome. They trust you. They recommend you, again, because they trust you. All right. You won't make them look like a fool.
Yeah.
Or anything like that. And so I would insert that as early as possible. And even if I was doing like an RFP, I would front load it with the referral part.
Yeah.
I
would too. There's another thing which is similar but different than what you just said, which has to do also with referrals and networking. And there's a phrase that I encourage everybody to remember, the strength of weak ties. Remember that, the strength of weak ties. And what that refers to is that if everything else is equal, if someone's decision is on the fence, they might go with someone that they've heard knows their cousin, Bob, or has worked with XYZ company. Like, even just the fact that they don't even know who that is, it's a data point that gives them confidence that somebody's not fly by night. They're not literally 100% unknown entity that they're taking a risk on. So even just minor connections. So LinkedIn, you're going to connect with somebody on LinkedIn if you're selling to them or marketing to them, or if it's ABM from a marketing standpoint. You can look at those connections. And, you could even bring up, oh, I see you're connected to so-and-so. How well do you know? Do you work with them or know them or what have you? And the person might say, no, that's one of those connections that I just accepted. I don't actually really know them. But they might say, oh, yeah, I met him at a conference, blah, blah, blah. So-and-so? Oh, yeah, I do. There you go. That may be the difference right there.
That's right. And so, so we cannot stress more highly the importance of H to H. I would say that, we've been kind of referring to, RFPs during this conversation, but even without that, even in your marketing ahead of time, when you're connecting with people ahead of time, when you've got them on your drip list or something like that, even in the AIs, I would still be referring to people. Okay. If you've got, talk about the strength of your people and use examples and that humanize you. Okay. Do you do charity work? Do you do, what do you do? But it humanize your company, and get that into the other information as well, besides just when you have like a big RFP or something.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And one last thing would be personas. We always, it's been very popular in the last several years to create these sort of imaginary people. And I've seen clients and myself even, create a visual of a fake, LinkedIn profile to say, oh, this is the kind of person you're selling to for this segment, blah, blah, blah. And you make it up. But even that now has become almost genericized, and you forget about the fact that persona that you've named, or maybe you've met, Family Guy Jim or whoever it is it's actually a real person. It's not a segment that's generic represented by Family Guy Jim. It's
not
actually
an avatar.
A person eventually, that's real.
Yep.
So let's just embrace all the digital transformation stuff that we've got going, all the things that we can do that are automatic, and let's not forget about people.
That's right. I think I have nothing else to add to that. So I'm going to say we are at our time limit, and another great topic, I think, and I think that really great advice for people who, maybe just to get you thinking about that, in your efforts, your marketing efforts right now, branding efforts, everything like that, is to humanize your company, humanize your people, and as Dave just said, remember that the people you're marketing to are people. They're not avatars. Okay, they are people. Okay,
right.
All right. So again, I am I am not the rock star Steve Miller, and this guy,
the Dave Loomis. We thank you again for joining us on this episode. If you like us, please like us, and subscribe. We keep forgetting to ask tell
people.
Friends, tell other humans.
Yeah, tell other people, that these two old guys with 80 years of experience are really giving some good stuff out there. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us. We will look forward to seeing you again. And until then, stay cool. Be orange.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the one and only B2B Marketing and Sales Podcast, the source for B2B marketing and sales insight. If you enjoyed the podcast, please be sure to subscribe and leave these old guys a 5-star rating. Check the show notes for any links and contact information. You can always contact us by going to b2bmarketingsalespodcast.com. Thank you, and keep on marketing, keep on selling.